I am Naveen. I am on Sachin's Ochakde show.
If you take away the fear of failure and you give people the power to dream, amazing things can happen. You have to have a mindset that says nothing is impossible. It's not just about having the right answer, it is about asking the right questions. Every single problem is really a great opportunity. So if you want to make $1 billion, all you have to do is solve a $10 billion problem. If you had everything in the world that you want, what would you do? And do that today, you will get everything that you want. Success is never about how much money you have in the bank. It is always about how many lives have you been able to impact positively.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the ochakde show. We're Silicon Valley's first business podcast for teens hosted by a teen. I'm Sachin Syal, a 16-year-old award-winning entrepreneur and podcaster from the Bay Area, and I interview remarkable and influential people from all walks of life so we can learn from their stories and level up ourselves. I am also the co-founder and CEO of 3doshas.com, a lifestyle coaching platform transforming lives through coaching principles inspired by yoga and Ayurveda. The purpose of this show is to inspire you to go for it, which is what Ochakde means. Oh my God, guys, we made it happen. Today, our very special guest is the one and the only remarkable and audacious multi-billionaire Naveen Jain. He literally needs no introduction, but the reason I'm gonna do a short bio is because I just wanna get myself and all of you more excited about Naveen. He's a serial entrepreneur and philanthropist. He's founded several successful companies like Viome, InfoSpace, Moon Express, and his life mission is to help people make their illness optional through his revolutionary biotech company, Viome. That's Viome.com. In fact, you can open a new tab and check it out while you're listening to us. Viome is a company specializing in gut microbiome testing, personalized nutrition, and precision supplementation, all with an AI-powered precision. He's also the author of the award-winning book, Moonshots. One thing I really love about Naveen is his amazing energy, passion, and enthusiasm in all his work as an intensely curious entrepreneur. And also, Naveen, I really love the rocket ship pins you wear on all your suits. That's amazing. So welcome to the Ochakde show. Thank you so much for being here today. As you know, I'm a huge fan, super excited. Been really looking forward to this. So how's your day been? And what's new and exciting in your awesome entrepreneurial life?
Well, first of all, Sachin, thank you for being so kind and thank you for being so persistent. I'm really sorry that took so long. But to answer your question, I'm doing absolutely amazing. And what I find is about life is every day I wake up at 4 a.m. and I find exactly the same joy every single day. And I really wonder that why people don't have that. And I think, it comes down to is, are you doing the thing that you are truly obsessed about? And what really mean by that is, are you following your purpose in life? Because when you find your purpose in life, you never lie down in bed. And one way to know that you have found your passion or not is when you wake up in the morning and you don't jump out of the bed. That means whatever you're doing is not your calling. Find something that will drive you so obsessed about solving that problem. And it's not obsession to make money. It's never obsession for a person, not obsession for a thing, obsession to solve a problem. And a lot of the times in the Western society, we are always taught about that, you have to have a goal and you have to be able to achieve the goal. And I think to large extent, coming from the, Eastern philosophy, I always believe that we have to continue to move the things forward. All we can do is take action every single day. Even if we never ever reach so-called destination, we move the ball forward far enough that someone can stand on your shoulder and take it across the finish line. So to me, the purpose of life or the purpose in life is simply as a relay race, that if you take it across the finish line, awesome. But even if you don't take it across the finish line, your job is to continue to push the humanity forward and hope that it's going to be someone else who's going to take the baton from you and take it across the finish line.
Awesome. You talk about jumping out of bed. Every day I think about my company, my podcast, and other startups, and I do jump out of bed See this bed right here? I jump out. Actually, this morning I got up before my alarm clock, super excited to meet you. And just by you talking, I just asked how you were doing. You already answered so many of my questions. So yeah, can you also bring us back to your teen years? Because this is a teen audience growing up in India. What got you obsessed with entrepreneurship?
Well, it's it's very rare that, when you are young, that you have a path charted for you. In fact, many of us believe we know exactly what we want. And I really believe that life is just simply the strings of experiences that come along and change you to become who you are. It is very, very rare that you actually know exactly where you're going to end up. The life is more of a zigzag journey rather than a straight line. It is never a straight line. And many of us, even though we would argue that we were born to be entrepreneurs, I really think many of us become as accidental entrepreneurs because of the circumstances we find in, because of the environment we find in, because of the opportunities we are given. And I think if you are a teen today, even the fact you're listening to this, that tells you that you have that, the star in your eyes, the fact that you believe in yourself, the fact you believe you can do things that no one thought was possible. But never forget to do the gratitude to your parents who have given you this opportunity for you to be able to actually even sit down and listen to this episode, right? How many people in the world would die just for this, right?
Yes.
So don't take anything for granted, because everything we are given today is because someone before you, whether it's your parents or your loved one, actually did something that crazy enough, something they took their risk and risked their lives, risked their savings, and risked everything so that you can be enjoying the benefits for all their labor. And I have always felt, having done so many things in my life, the biggest joy I still get is seeing our children do audacious things, right? And to me, there's nothing brings me more joy than watching, 3 of our kids going out there and taking on those audacious challenges that even despite my, giving them every possible tools and the tricks in the book I knew for them to be able to do that. But actually watching them and just doing things that have a potential to move the humanity forward, help billions of people live better life. That to me is the most joyous thing that any parents can have.
I know, and I follow you, I follow Ankur, Priyanka, Neil, and Anu. All you guys are, it's an awesome, awesome is an understatement, but you guys are an incredible family. Let's jump right into Viome. I spent like over an hour on that website. Beautiful website, beautiful people, amazing people. So it's the gut microbiome testing company, and we all see that you genuinely believe that the world can make their illness optional. So can you explain what gut microbiome testing is and why it's even important in the first place?
Well, I'm going to focus less on microbiome, but give you a thought process, because I want everyone who's listening to it to find their own moonshot. And I don't want this podcast to be about me or Viome. I want this to be about you, everyone who's listening to it. So to me, every time I start any company, I ask myself 3 questions. Why this? Why now? Why me? And this is same set of questions I expect every one of you who's listening to it should ask. Whether you're looking to go to a college, looking to meet a girl, whether you're starting a company, ask yourself same thing. Why this? Why now? Why me? Why this is a really simple thing. You ask yourself, God forbid I am actually successful in solving this problem. Would it help a billion people live a better life now? Now, as a teenager, you always wonder, oh my God, that's such a big thing. How can I do it? And how can I really impact a billion people? And it's only the people who have been successful. They talk about helping billion people. I'm still trying to make my first 10K, 100K, million, 10 million, 100 million, right? How can I go think about that? And I think people forget, when you are doing things that help a billion people live a better life, it is not simply a philanthropic thing to do. It is a capitalist thing to do. And here is why. Anytime you can build any product, any service that can help 1 billion people, 100 million people, 10 million people, 1 million people, you can create a $100 billion company, a $10 billion company, or a $1 billion company. Making money is simply a byproduct of doing things that improve people's lives. So every day when you wake up, don't say, what can I do to make $1 million? Ask yourself, what can I do to help 1 million people? And everything else will fall in place. And that's the first thing is, every one of our children, we went through the same philosophy. We told them that your success will never be measured by how much money you have in the bank. It'll be measured by how many lives you improve. And the reason we said that was we knew if they focus on improving people's lives, they will create amazingly great company. But I didn't want them to focus on short-term creating, making money, because we knew they would make a lot of money if they focused on helping people live better. The second part of the puzzle is why now? Because the number one predictor of your success is not your intellect, not your team, not the technology you have, not the idea you have. It's simply the timing. That's the number one predictor of success. And how do you know when the timing is right? Is you ask yourself what had changed in the last 1 to 2 years, but more importantly, what do you expect to happen in the next 3 to 5 years that will allow you to solve this problem at scale in the next 3 to 5 years? And this problem could not have been solved half a decade ago. And that starts you to think about what technologies are coming up that are growing so fast, whether it is a generative AI today or it's going to be something else tomorrow. Mm-hmm. What changes that will create that I can take advantage of, that in 2 to 3 years, I can build a business that could not have been done 5 years ago, right? Today, everyone, whether you are a lawyer, whether you are a creative writer, whether you are a website builder, whether you are in fact a computer programmer, you have to wonder, how long will that skill last? If there is generative AI that can write a program as good, if not better than you, what happens to the computer programmers? Well, it doesn't mean that people are going to be out of job. The new set of jobs are going to be created by, instead of you becoming a computer programmer, now you're going to become a prompt engineer. And the prompt engineering is going to become the discipline that people learn. But when you go to college, it's not about acquiring the skills or acquiring a learning. You should focus on learning as many different things as you can, collect as many dots as you can, knowing that in the future, it is all going to be about learning to learn, learning to solve problems. And the only way you learn to solve problems is you know so much about so many things. It's not about that you're deep skill into one thing, because that skill will go away. Mm-hmm. Right? So in terms of timing, you always look at, what is changing and how do you take advantage of that trend? And is that trend converging where many of the technologies are coming together for the first time? So if you look at in the next decade or so, the sensors are becoming, more powerful. They are becoming more and more versatile. You're able to now even use a simple 10-second video of someone to detect their blood pressure. You can detect their blood glucose. You can detect their heart rate variability. Imagine with nothing but your camera, just simply a video of someone from a distance you can detect and say that person has a high blood pressure, that person is having issues with their heart. But the point I'm trying to make is, in the future, as many of these things are becoming cheaper, better, faster, and the AI is becoming more and more powerful, what problem would you solve? Would it be healthcare? Would that be in agriculture? Would that be in completely different field that you haven't even thought about? How would you apply these technologies to solve this audacious problem? And the third part is why me? And why me really boils down to is the questions, what questions are you asking that are different from what everyone else in the industry is asking? Because the questions you ask is the problems you solve, right? So whether you want to solve a climate change problem, you're going to solve the world hunger problem, right? So you say, hey, I want to solve climate change. And many people who are focused on climate change as a teenager, the first thing that comes to their mind is, hey, I need to get rid of the fossil fuel. Now, yes, a right thing to do, but if you start to think in a bigger way, you will realize that all the carbon that's emitted in the nature is less than 10% of that actually comes from all the stuff that humans do, whether it is car, whether it is industry, or everything we do. 90% of all the carbon emitted is actually through the forest fires that happen naturally through lightning. It happens through volcanoes erupting, right? Now, what if I say, hey, why don't we stop the volcanoes from erupting? And people say, like, what do you mean by stop the volcanoes from erupting? And that, the answer is very simple. Why do volcanoes erupt? Well, there is a tectonic shift happening. There is a lot of pressure that gets built under the earth, and then eventually the pressure has to dissipate and the volcanoes erupt. What if you can slowly release the pressure? When you start to detect the pressure is building through seismic waves, what if you can start to drill the hole and start to release the pressure very slowly? Right? And suddenly, if you can release the pressure like a pressure cooker, then pressure cooker will never blow up, right? And that is the same type of theory you can apply. When you say, I'm solving a world hunger problem, people say, well, we need to solve how to grow more food, how to distribute more food, how to stop the wastage. Or you could ask yourself, why do we eat food? And when you ask that question, why do we eat food, everything changes. And people always say, look, this is great for people who are into the, who understand technology. I am a tile manufacturer or I'm a carpet manufacturer. What do I do? So I have a company that makes carpet or that makes tiles. What am I going to do with that? And the answer is your mindset of thinking that you are a carpet manufacturer or a tile manufacturer is right there, limits you to what you do. If you say, I have the largest real estate in everyone's home, and what if I could put sensor in my carpet or in my tiles? I know how much you weigh. I will know when you wake up. By looking at your pattern of walking, I can detect your diseases. I can say you're frail today, you're depressed today, or you're sick today. I can analyze your voice, I can analyze your sweat. I have so much I can do by rethinking that I am not a carpet manufacturer. I control the largest real estate in any house, right? And it's just the mindset of reframing who you are can change everything. Anyway, I think taking too much time here. I just wanted to give you an idea about how to think about a problem from a completely different perspective.
Yeah, of course. And you brought up climate change, that's a big topic for Gen Z. And we've actually done projects on school about that. And I love the thing you said about learning to learn. That's an extraordinary, that's really like, I'm going to put that in the description below. Say, guys, what Naveen just said, learning to learn, that's like very powerful. Thanks for sharing that. And thanks for touching on some topics that Gen Z thinks that's important. Let's switch to, I'm a big believer, and my whole family, we started a company in yoga and Ayurveda. Do you think that and gut microbiome testing can help people make their illness optional? What are your thoughts on yoga and Ayurveda?
Yeah, so I think if you look at the human diseases or you look at the longevity, that how do we live to be healthier longer? And, like a hierarchy of needs, there are actually 5 steps that are in that order one has to do to stay healthy. Number 1 is nutrition. Without the proper nutrition, nothing matters. And the fundamental problem with the nutrition is that we have been taught that there are foods that are good for everyone. And that's a fallacy. So the number 1 fallacy is that there is good foods and there are bad foods. There are certainly bad foods, but there is no universal healthy foods, right? So spinach can be good for you or spinach can be bad for you. Just because Popeye told you spinach is good for everyone, Popeye is wrong, right? Anytime you hear from someone, everyone should do that. My recommendation is don't do it unless your name happens to be everyone. If it's good for everyone, it's not good for you, right? And that's a fundamental thing, is that what we found is spinach and kale and almonds are some of the most healthy food people believe, especially in the Indian families. And though more than 50% of the people are harmed by that. And there are some people who benefit from spinach, there are some people who benefit from almond, and just as many people are harmed by that. So unless you know what foods are good for you, you're taking a chance with your own health, right? Similarly, the supplement. Anytime someone tells you everyone should take this supplement, they're wrong. The same thing like curcumin or turmeric can be good for you, or it can harm you if you have high bile acid. Avocado can be really good for you, but it can harm you if you have high uric acid. Right? Same type of thing. Broccoli can be good for you, or the broccoli can harm you if you have high sulfite production. Right? So you have to know what's happening in your body before you go and say, is this food good or bad? So that's a nutrition. The second part is stress reduction. Anytime you have stress, whether it is coming from your school, whether it is coming from your parents, whether it is coming from other places, you have to reduce the stress, because when you are stressed, your body goes into fight or flight response. And what happens in the fight or flight response? Your body shuts down your digestion system. Your body shuts down your immune system. You get sick, and you cannot digest nutrition from your food. So meditation, and any of the things that you can do to reduce the stress. Gratitude. So many of the cultures, what do they do before they eat? They do the prayer. Why do they do the prayer? When you do the gratitude, your body moves from sympathetic mode, fight or flight response, into parasympathetic mode. And that allows you to now calm down, and that when you eat food, it is able to be digested, right? So that's the reason we do the prayers before we eat. The third, as you mentioned, is exercise. Movement really is more than exercise, it's a movement. So it's yoga, it is walking. You don't have to be a gym rat pumping iron for 2 hours in a gym. That is wrong. What you need to do is move 4 or 5 miles a day. Get able to do yoga, get stretching. And yes, muscle training is important, because muscles really help you build a flexible and also stable body. So yes, you do need to build the muscle, but sometimes just doing 20 push-ups is good, right? I would say you don't need to spend many hours. The fourth is sleep. Again, it is the quality of sleep that matters, not just the quantity of sleep. So people say, hey, 8 hours sleep. No, you need to get about an hour and a half of deep sleep, an hour and a half of REM sleep. And if you can get that in 4 hours, you will be good. If you need 6, take 6. If you need 8, take 8. But you got to be able to get enough REM sleep and enough deep sleep. Now, I care a lot about my sleep. I use my Aura Ring. I have a mattress called 8 Sleep that measures, it takes the temperature of my body, it adjusts, cools it down, and keeps it hot. My wife's side, she can adjust her own temperature. My temperature adjusts myself on my side. It measures my REM sleep, my deep sleep, my heart rate variability. And I also have a Withings pad underneath my bed and mattress that also measures my sleep, right? So I believe the sleep is extremely important. The last part and the most important part is purpose. We talked about that. People who live a life of purpose tend to live 10 to 15 years longer than anyone, right? And in fact, there's so much research that has come out that people who have a purpose in life tend to live healthier, longer, and their immune system is stronger. And people, so basically it's really simple. Eat the right food, don't get stressed. And another part of being stressed is not let go. So it is part of coming from Gita that says we don't need to focus on the outcome, focus on action, which is there are only 2 types of things in this world: the things that are in your control and the things that are out of your control. So if the things are out of your control, what do you say? It is what it is, and it will be what will be. And if things are in your control, you can do something about it, then you do the absolute best you can, and then it is what it is, and it will be what will be, right? And that's really, every one of the things you have to just focus on saying, I did my best for this exam. And you know what? The results will be what the results will be. If you did not do your best, then you need to really ask yourself, why not?
Yeah. Everything you said, resonates with like my dad, who always teaches my brother and I, to make sure we align our three energies and, practice all these things that can help us take our game to the next level. And we talk about this a lot on our coaching platform with hundreds of users, and we hope to keep growing with teens and people of all ages. I think my teen audience would love to know what a day in the life of Naveen Jain looks like. You wake up at 4 a.m. and he doesn't just wake up at 4 a.m. He probably wakes up, jumps out of the bed, super excited, ready to start his day. So let's hear what it's like.
Well, first of all, I want everyone, please don't follow my habits. Following someone's habit doesn't make you them.
Yeah.
Following how they think makes you them. So I'm a big believer this. The people who wrote this book, like 7 Habits of Successful People, it's wrong. Tony Robbins takes ice bath. You can take an ice bath 3 times a day. You're not going to become Tony Robbins, right? The point I'm trying to make is that just because someone does something doesn't mean you follow their habits. But what you really need to focus on the thought process. Now, what I do every single day is I read a lot. So there is not a day that goes by that I am not reading research papers and I'm not listening to some audible book. And I read things that are completely outside the things I'm currently working on, because I want to look at the world from a very different perspective. So book I just finished reading is Existential Physics. It talks about that even your great grandmother, is she dead or alive? You all know that she's dead, but is she really dead? Because think about it. She's dead from the perspective of where we are. If someone living 100 light years away, looking down on Earth, she is still walking because it took 100 years for the light to travel. So it is relative, right? So when we see the stars, we think stars are there. Well, they may be million light years away. They may be dead for a million years for all we know, right? Because we don't know that. So it's all about space-time. So when something is happening, is it really happening, right? And you could argue that even when we are looking at each other, our mind actually makes us fool into believing that when I touch my hand, it is solid. We know for sure every part of our body is made of atoms. What are atoms made of? Electrons and protons. What are they made of? Quarks. What are they made of? Actually, just a waveform. So we're literally a floating waveform that our brain starts to see as one. Now imagine when we talk about reincarnation, what does it really mean? When we die, this energy never gets destroyed. It simply becomes part of universal energy. When some humans are manifested, it is a pieces of that energy come back. What is that? Reincarnation, right? The point I'm trying to make is that all these religions that talk about these things is basically talking about one's universal energy. You can call that God, you can call that whatever you want. The whole energy is one, and we all are interconnected. Your actions affects me, my actions affect you, because we all are connected.
Awesome. And I think I want to bring up something. A lot of my friends and some people even older than me, when we coach them on three doshas, they say, Sachin, how are you able to be obsessed with ochakde and three doshas and everything else you do? Because I've been like, they would say like, I like this, I like that, but then I just lose my interest in it. So Naveen, how are you are consistently, persistently obsessed with starting companies. And on top of that, you learn this way of living and you just applied it so much that you become massively successful. And what's your secret to success by being like, what's your secret to always being obsessed? Like, do you always have to be obsessed like every day, or how does that work?
So I think, to some extent, I am only get obsessed about solving the problem that I care about. So every 8-10 years, I say, what am I willing to dedicate the next 10-15 years of my life to solving a problem, right? So I look at the stuff not about, I'm obsessed about this. I'm saying this problem is worth solving. This problem is worth dedicating 10-15 years of my life to, right? Having lost my dad to cancer, I thought, this problem is worth solving, because why do people even develop cancer? Why can't we find before the cancer becomes stage 3, stage 4 cancer? Yeah. And that is so we started with one simple belief. What if we can understand what changes in the human body that gets a human body to be in disease state, whether it is diabetes or heart disease, whether it is a cancer or Alzheimer, whether it is depression or anxiety, what changes happen in the body? And if you can understand those changes, you can prevent them from happening. If you can detect them early enough, you can reverse them, or you can stop the progression of them. That is the simple belief. And that's the reason we look at your body from the perspective of RNA. And again, the reason we focused was simply looking at the things and saying, what changes in the human body? Your DNA never changes, so why look at DNA? What changes in your RNA, so why not focus on that? Anyway, just it's a way of thinking about that problem. And there's going to be a time, whether it is 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years, where I'm going to believe that the work that I set out to do is now largely done, and now it's simply a business, and hire someone to run it. And then I say, I am just no longer excited about, because this problem is largely solved. I want to solve a next problem. And it could be I focus on agriculture. And then you're going to say, my God, why are you so obsessed about agriculture? It is because I want to solve that problem. So I never focus on something unless I believe this is a large enough problem and I'm willing to dedicate 10, 15 years of my life to solve it.
Yeah. Awesome. I think I've interviewed other billionaires, but they're all great. But I think the thing I really like about you and why you're here today on my show is because I think when a teenager looks at my Instagram and sees, oh my God, Sachin just interviewed such a wealthy guy, right? But you're extremely wealthy, but you're also helping people. You didn't start companies for the sake of just making money. That's what I really love about you. Last 2 questions before we end off.
Yep.
What's your all-time favorite advice for teens?
Well, I would say the best advice I can give you is never ever be afraid to fail, because you only fail when you give up. And never ever say, I can't do it because I don't know something about it. Because when I started Viome, I have no background in science. I have no background in biology. In fact, to me, that wasn't the liability, that was my asset. Because most experts have a certain way of looking. Experts take the knowledge as granted. Non-experts are able to challenge the foundation of what every expert has taken it for granted, and challenge it and reimagine and recreate the world that never could be created by experts, right? So, that another thing is that don't let someone tell you that you need their approval to pursue your dreams. So fall in love with yourself. And I don't mean become self-conceited. What I mean by this, don't look for someone else's approval. Feel comfortable who you are. Every liability you have is your asset. So when people look at me and say, Naveen, you speak with such a thick Indian accent. And I said, that is my asset. And say, how can they be your asset? I said, very simple. If I spoke fluent in English, then you could be typing and still understand what I'm saying. When I speak, you have to give 100% of your attention to me, or you don't understand a word. Now, guess what? That is my asset, that when I'm speaking, I have 100% of your attention. So you can really reframe everything you do, and don't think just because you are this, you can't do this. My mom used to say, you can do anything, sky is the limit. And then I realized that sky doesn't even exist. It's a figment of our imagination. And what she was really saying is that you have no limits, right? And sky doesn't exist. So why create a sky for yourself?
Awesome. Genius advice. Last question. I know we have to wrap up. What was your favorite part of being on this podcast, the Ochakde Show?
Well, I think, again, this is to me is you bring in a great set of young, inspired audience. And I really hope even if one person who is listening to it will do something different that can move the humanity forward, that would be my best day of my life, is that I'm able to inspire at least one person to do something great. And that could someday help my children, our grandchildren, or humanity at large.
Love it. Naveen Jain, at Naveen Jain, CEO on Instagram, over 1 million followers. Amazing individual. Naveen, thank you so much. Guys, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time. Rise high. Bye, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.